It's a blackout in the past that has worked well for Rutgers. How much of an impact can it have again tonight?
Well, the blackout will be loud tonight. One of the best primetime venues in all of the Big Ten.
What a scene, what a night, what an atmosphere.
Rutgers fans, we're spicing up your football pregame festivities and your tailgates at SHI Stadium this year with the best food trucks in Jersey. Join us at the Rutgers Boardwalk. And welcome, everybody, to another edition of Shop Weekly, your weekly dose of Rutgers Scarlet Knights football, and your chance to hear from the head coach, Greg Schiano, in his press conference on Mondays. I'm Chris Carlin, and as always, I am joined by our good friend Eric LeGrand to talk all things Rutgers. Scarlet Knights this past weekend fall to 3-1 on the year. They lose their Big Ten opener. Final score 27-10. Iowa comes to town and knocks off Rutgers. Eric, great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you?
I'm outstanding. Let's get right into it from the other night. Before we hear from the coach, we also encourage you to be a big part of the show. Send in your comments on the stream. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and we will make you part of the show here on Chop Weekly. And Eric, we'll start with the game the other night. Pretty simple. And it boils down to turnovers. When Rutgers found themselves in a position where they turned the football over twice, and both of them turned into scores with a pick six and with a fumble return for a touchdown, it's awfully difficult to recover from that because you look at the game otherwise, and it was exceptionally even throughout. You give up 13 points, you should have a chance to win, but those are just plays that you can't get back.
Absolutely, and we knew that this was going to be a game of the defenses. Both teams have very stout defenses. Iowa was able to find a way to create turnovers, and even on that one turnover where they didn't score a touchdown, they were able to have a short field to drive for a touchdown. So if you look at it that way, that really was the cost of the game. Those three turnovers, two pick six, fumble recovery, and then getting it inside Rutgers territory after another fumble. So and that is the game. The defense, I will say, for Rutgers played outstanding. They didn't get worn down like you thought. They obviously Iowa had a few good runs here and there, but the defense played pretty stout, and they even held their quarterback to only passing it to the tight end. I think he finally completed it to the wide receiver in that late third quarter. So the Rutgers defense did their job. Obviously, you must protect the ball because the ball is the program.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's one of those lessons that sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and it came back to bite them this week. But now Rutgers moves forward into the Big Ten schedule. Their first Big Ten road game is this coming week at Ohio State. Let's talk about a couple of the other developments out of the game the other night. Evan Simon went the whole way, Eric, and threw for over 300 yards, had to show a lot of toughness, took some big hits in that game. What did you see from the Rutgers quarterback?
Yeah, he definitely earned my respect with the hits that he was taking. To be able to sustain those, get back up, and then not be afraid to stay in that pocket and take him for the rest of the game. And to get his first 300-yard game in his career was pretty impressive. Obviously, you wish you could have back a few throws, but that's the game. But I will say he has grown. He started to push the ball down the field a little bit. We saw Shabeen Jones on that first drive of the game catch a 33-yard pass up the sideline and then finding some other targets later in the game down the field. So you can see that Evan Simon is definitely getting better and he's improving. It's just those costly turnovers that you have to make those. You have to get those corrected. And Coach Schiano says, "Okay, we're going to make a mistake, but don't make it twice." So you hope that he learns again and now does not make that same mistake twice.
I'll tell you one thing that really jumped out: the energy that came from that crowd, especially early in that game. Student section was hyped. They were all ready to go. The boardwalk for the second consecutive game was just outstanding. I had some more friends who had a chance to get out there. I saw Noah Eagle, who was on the TV broadcast, who was out there on the Ferris wheel at one point, you know, kind of enjoying that. I talked to a friend, and we discussed this during the broadcast, about all the different food items that were available for fans. And Eric, I've got to try this pizza cone that they had. Apparently, that was outstanding. Point is, like the whole game day experience from the boardwalk into the stadium, outstanding, and you can see where that energy from the boardwalk kind of translates into the stadium.
Absolutely. It's funny that you just brought up that pizza cone because you brought that up on the broadcast on Saturday night, too. So it's still on your mind, Chris. That means that you got to get over there and definitely try it out.
Exactly. I haven't been able to shake it for 2 days.
With all the other array of options that are over there, I mean, you got to see some videos just on the social media of the tailgates that were going on and people walking up to the Scarlet Walk. And then, as you said, going into the stadium and getting this, get ready for to see the team. And how about the light show? Hey, PJ, I know you're backstage right now, but the team, the tremendous job that you guys did putting on that light show, getting the crowd amped up, bringing the cell phones out, all of the lights song coming on. That was cool. We were all in awe as we were watching it, getting ready to do the broadcast up top there.
It's brand new in the stadium. PJ Mullen and his staff doing a fantastic job with that light show. And, Eric, back to some of the on-the-field stuff, I thought that, we saw some bursts from some guys that we haven't seen in a bit that I think are important. Number one, Shamin Jones and Aaron Cruikshank getting their way right back into the pass game. They were at their best the other night.
Yeah, they were. Being able to see Shamin Jones as we haven't seen him, too much this year, but make some big plays because he is that veteran guy out there. And Cruikshank, we know what he can do with the ball. You just want to see him continue to get more and more opportunities because he's special. And being able to make that play that he did on the All-American cornerback in Moss was exceptional. He's a smaller guy, so usually on fade routes you want to give him more space. They were in I believe on the when they threw that up to him, and he was still able to make a play and make a great catch for the touchdown for the Scarlet Knights, and kept him in the game, made it a 2-score game at the time. So you keep on wanting to see him developing and getting more opportunities to get the ball in his hands because he's a special player.
What jumped out to you about how well the defense played? What specifically were you impressed by?
I was impressed by the physicalness, honestly, because we know Iowa is going to be a physical team. They're going to hit you. I know they may have a young offensive line, but that doesn't take away some of the physicality that they play with. And Rutgers was able to play back with it. Obviously, there was a few plays where Iowa did get them and get upfield to the second level. But Rutgers bounced back, is kind of playing that bend but don't break type of defense. The defensive backs played a great game. I thought there was a few busted coverages with the tight end getting loose. But in the wide receiver game, they were pretty stout there. But overall, you know what Iowa wants to do. They're going to line up. They're going to run their zone scheme. They're going to find a way for that one-cut run back with the running back. And they're also going to try to be able to dominate you through a full drive. And Rutgers let up a few plays, but they did a great job, and my hats go off to them because they were put in a lot of tough situations, and they only gave up 13 points.
When you're looking at the Rutgers offense trying to get some things going into Ohio State, what are the things that you feel like they can do a little bit better to be able to be more productive in terms of getting in the end zone?
Well, I started to see Samuel Brown is starting to emerge really for me, Chris. He's a bigger back, and he's strong, and he got loose on one play where he took it for 20-plus yards, and you're like, okay, we got a little bit something here with him, and I want to see how he starts developing, as you say, and getting into that red zone area. Can they rely on him, whether if that's picking up a pass when they're pass blocking, or can they run it down the throw, or even him in the passing game, him coming out the backfield and becoming an asset because they did flare him out a few times, and you're starting to see, he's starting to become a full-blown running back. He can pass block, he can run the ball, and also getting involved in the passing game. So a little bit more emergence of Samuel Brown going into the season. I think that's something that they can really work on and rely on going down for the rest of the Big Ten year.
In just moments, we'll go to the podium and hear from the head coach, Greg Schiano, in his weekly news conference. Rutgers headed out to Ohio State, a place he's very familiar with, having spent several years as a defensive coordinator under Urban Meyer out in Columbus. And look, this is never an easy trip, to say the least. You've got a Heisman contender in C.J. Stroud, and you have got one of the best receivers in the game in Jackson Smith in Jigba, who we have seen before. These two guys are dynamic offensively, not to mention Trayon Henderson in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State, you're playing up against a national championship contender year in and year out. And this is what you want to play for. Rutgers obviously has a long way to go before they become a national championship contender. But these are the games that you want to play. These are the games where you want to challenge yourself. You want to go up against the best of the best to see where you measure out at. Those people looking at the NFL scouts. I'm sure there'll be plenty of NFL scouts at that game checking out those guys. You want to make your name noticed. You make big plays. You follow. You trust your coaches. Follow the plan, the game plan that they come up with, and you go out there. You give it your best shot. You never know, especially this year. There's upsets all over the place. So yes, that Ohio State may be the top 3 team in the country, but that doesn't mean you still got to line up and play the game. And I would be fired up to be able to go up there and line up versus a team like Ohio State because you know what they bring to the table.
I saw plenty of NFL scouts at the game the other night, and there probably needs to be more here as the season goes along. They were in the press box and just getting a good look at all the talent that was on the field the other night. Coach Schiano, we're told, is approaching the podium as we speak and going to give us his thoughts on getting ready for this game against the Ohio State Buckeyes and also the energy, which he talked about the other night. With the team and what they took out of the crowd. Here's Coach.
All right, guys. Going up. Try to answer anything I can. Before I do that, though, I do have a special congratulations. I think we all know that Pat and his wife Candace, they had a beautiful baby girl, Juliet, I understand the name, so I want to congratulate them. That's awesome. And look forward to getting you back, Pat. So why don't we go from there?
I get place to start. Quarterbacks, how are Gavin and Noah doing? What's their status entering the week?
Yeah, we're gonna see as the week goes on. They're both progressing. So what that means by end of the week, I don't know. What that means in practice reps, I don't know. I'll know more probably tomorrow. But we'll continue on as we're doing, right? We'll just keep trying to improve with whoever's available.
When it comes to Saturday, how much do you factor in, the level of the opponent, historic results against this team, and playing those quarterbacks and their health? Like, how much do you value risking their health versus the opponent?
Well, I'll never risk their health. I don't care who we're playing. Their health's, always first and foremost to me. We're going to win the game. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're going to Columbus to win the game. Will that happen? There's another team on the other sideline that wants the same thing. That's why goals are overrated, in my opinion. We both have the same goal at the beginning of the game. But we're going to do everything we can. We're going to practice. We're going to get ready and go out to Columbus and play our best.
When you watch C.J. Stroud on film, I mean, how does he compare to last year? And do you feel like there are ways that he's elevated his game even beyond?
Yeah, I think just with experience, right? He's been through big football games. He's seen a lot more defenses, including his own. What he's going against now is some high-level stuff. So when you go against that every day in practice, I think it sharpens iron a little bit there. So, yeah, he's an elite-level quarterback for sure.
Rick, how much of Noah's injury affected what you wanted to do with quarterbacks this year and bringing those two young guys along?
Well, we played with one scholarship quarterback in our opening Big Ten game. And I think the quarterbacks are part of it, Steve. But I think we just got to look at it. And I had to stop for a minute after Saturday night because it was maddening. And I had to just take a step back and say, wait a minute. So we're playing with one scholarship quarterback. Our top sacker the first 2 years has missed the whole season. Yet we're playing really well on defense. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And maybe we, by doing some things, raise the expectation of everybody, fan base included. And that's a good thing. That's why we sold that place out the other night. That's why there was an excitement. But I can't let that affect, when I took the job, I told you it's not going to be a linear straight shot. And we've had some injuries that set us back. Some different things, right? Some top, one of our top recruits injured his knee and was unable to play this year. So I want to make sure that we stay focused on the main thing, and that's getting better. And eventually, as we get better and better, that'll translate into more and more wins. But the quarterback is definitely part of it. When Noah went down, there's your experienced guy. He's got 20 whatever starts under his belt. And that's a nice thing to have to bring the other guys in and see how it all fits together. Once we lose that option, now it's young guys. So to go out and win the first ball game at BC and then continue on to win a couple with young quarterbacks, that's good, right? Was it all stellar play? No, but I don't expect it to be when there's very little to no experience there. But now we're in Big Ten play. And, I thought we did some good things offensively. We just turned the ball over twice, and I say just. That's the story of the game. So, yeah, does that have a factor? Sure it does. But our quarterbacks didn't turn it over on the one. We didn't miss the flare route on that drive when we cut it to 2 scores. The quarterbacks didn't do that. So it's collective. And I think the focus, we focus. Our guys play really hard. It's the consistency. As you're building a program, the last thing that comes is consistency. So when you can do it at first and you see it, okay, now we've done it, but now can we do it down after down after down? And when you get good, your team can do that. So quarterbacks are part of it, but it's across the whole team.
And just to follow up really quick on the quarterback, since you will lose Noah, the experienced guy, will you have to look to replace someone with more experience in the offseason through the portal?
Oh, that's down the road. I think all of that comes up of how do your guys that you're developing, how do they develop, right? If you end the season a certain way with your quarterback situation, then that's less important. If you don't, then it's more important. Everything to me is a fluid situation, and you have to look at it as such. That's why people, they want to lay down these mandates of this, this, and this. How do you know? You don't. They're human beings. They're going to go out and play. The switch is going to flip at some point, and then all of a sudden, well, man, we're set for a few years here. Let's go. So we'll figure it out as we go. I'm optimistic, though.
Now that you have 4 games to evaluate, what's kind of your overall assessment of the offensive line?
Improved. Yeah. Not where we need to be, but much improved, actually. There were some things that we've done in the first 4 weeks that would have had no chance doing the first 2 years. So that's a good thing. Again, we keep stepping up in competition. That defensive front was stout, and there was a lot of them last week, and it's going to be the same this week. So get used to it. That's Big Ten football, right? I think we saw 8 or 9 D linemen rolled in last week. We'll see the same this week. So, yeah, it's what the Big Ten's about. That's why it's the best league in the country.
When you went back and watched the tape, what did you see from Simon just in terms of growth and mistakes and learning maybe throughout a game?
Yeah. A lot. I think one thing you could say, he is a tough son of a gun now. He stood in there and made some throws, and as he was letting it go, he was getting hit, but he didn't flinch. And, you can't teach that. And the reality is to try to keep it didn't work so well, but to try to keep your quarterbacks healthy, they have a green jersey on and they don't get hit in preseason. So when do you know? When they get hit in the game. How tough are they? And I would tell you that all 3 of our quarterbacks are tough guys. They don't flinch. They hang in there. They're not afraid to run the ball. That was a big step. The other thing I thought when we went no huddle, I thought Evan looked very comfortable. He had command of the situation, and that's another one that you don't know until you do it, right? So that was good to see. So that was a positive.
A big picture about Ohio State. You've been there, so you know what the advantages that program has just in tradition and facilities, everything. Do the changes in the sport in college football with NIL and where the direction is going, does it make it even harder to catch a program like that? Do they have more advantages than they might have had 5 years ago?
All depends what you do. It's an opportunity, as I look at it, to close the gap if we, in fact, have those resources. And it's a different way of thinking, and it's a sudden change. So do your supporters, do your boosters, do your local businesses, do they feel the need? Is it that important to them to step up? Well, then it can become an advantage for us. It can be actually a way to close the gap more quickly. But it all depends on what your individual community feels and then ultimately does.
Just Aaron Young, how is he getting closer, or do you feel like he's...
Aaron is improving, yes. And boy, we've missed him, right? He's he's a multi-dimensional guy. He does it on teams. He does it at running back. He does it at receiver. It's another guy that, that's why I had to really pump the brakes myself, because I was frustrated, as you could tell Saturday night. And I don't ever accept it, and I don't make excuses, but I do have to live in reality. And when you look at some of the quality, experienced players that weren't playing, and yet were battling and really felt, other than a couple mistakes, are right there, that's a huge improvement. Huge improvement. So, but then we jump up in class again, right? So if Iowa is 1, Ohio State's 1, or if Iowa's 1A, Ohio State's 1. I mean, they're the third ranked or second ranked, whatever ranking they have, team in the country for a reason. And as Steve said, I've been there. I understand the culture. I understand the program. I understand the level of talent. So we're going to have to really, for us to have an opportunity to win this game, we have to be consistent. We have to be at our best consistently. And I just got done telling you that's the last thing to come. So, but you know what? The challenge is great, and that's what I love about this league. So I'm looking forward to it.
On that vein, when you came back for the second time, the gap between Ohio State and this program obviously was vast. Do you feel like, one, in the 3 years you've made you were able to significantly close the gap in any sense? Or is a game against Ohio State a fair way to, is it a fair measuring stick for this program in the 3 years?
Oh, I don't know if there's a measuring stick right now with the program that's established that way. I don't know that. It depends how we play, right? It'll be a great measuring stick if we play well. And but if you play poorly against a team like Ohio State, it really gets exposed, right? So you go play poorly against a good team, you might not look great. You play poorly against them, and it's a matter of how many. What's the difference? So we need to go out and play our best game, and then some things go your way. And again, the game is what you need to do. You need to hang in there. You need to play tough, and you keep looking up, and there's still a chance. Then you keep going, and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And that's what you do when you go in. You're a market underdog. We get where we are right now. Doesn't mean we're always going to be here. As a matter of fact, we're not going to always be in this position, but it takes time. And that's really one thing that I had to, like I said, do it myself first, right? And then communicate it to people, first my team and my staff, and now publicly, in that there's a lot of great improvement going on. We've lost some really valuable players, as was mentioned today, to injury. Some of them will be coming back as we go. Some of them won't. Some will have to wait till next year to see. But overall, the tide is definitely rising, and we're going out to Columbus to play our very best game since we've been back, and see where that puts us. All right, guys, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Rutgers head coach Greg Schiano, his preview press conference for the Ohio State Buckeyes this coming Saturday at 3:30 kick out in Columbus. All right, Eric, what were your big takeaways from the coach today?
All right, it was a little bit actually positive. He said he had to look himself in the mirror, think about where the team is and the guys that they're missing, and put things into a reality check of, okay, we played this game, we lost 27-10, but it was off of those few plays that really changed the game. And I have a lot of young guys out there that really kept it close, and the defense is playing well. And you maybe even think, honestly, like they are missing a lot of guys, and they went out there with Evan Simon, who was getting hit after play, but they still were finding ways to stay in that game and make it competitive. And now they got another big test ahead of them, but the positivity, and this is where you want to be at. So I was actually, pleasantly surprised on how he just came into that press conference.
One of the things that jumped out, we've talked about all the injuries that they've had, and was asked about, bringing guys back, but going up and against an opponent like Ohio State, does it make you hesitate a little bit more? And he said, I don't care who the opponent is. We're not going to risk anybody's health in any circumstance.
And that's true. You can't just, because you're playing Ohio State, okay, I got to get this guy in there, or I need to rest this guy because I don't want him to get hurt even more. No, it's all about the players out there. He can go. There's a difference between injured and hurt. You play hurt. No matter, everything hurts when you play in this season. You go through training camp, you go through a season, everything hurts. But if you're injured, then that's when you need to do your rehab and not being able to go out there and play, because that can, turn into something bigger. But if you're hurt, you go play.
I thought he made an excellent point. Not that what I think matters compared to what a coach thinks, but Eric, there was a comfort level that existed for Evan Simon the other night, especially in the no huddle, hurry up offense. He looked like, I will say that day by day, he looks more and more comfortable and is really growing more and more capable of making some plays here.
And honestly, when you're running that no huddle, it wears on the defense because it's harder for the defense to get to play in because you see the personnel that's coming in and out. Then you got to look at, okay, where's the strong side? Where am I setting in front? And if you're going fast and you're moving, the offense gets into a rhythm. And we saw Evan Simon got into a little bit of a rhythm with that no huddle offense. And sometimes when you make a big play, then you line it up and then you don't snap it until the clock is under 8 again. And then you're like, all right, the defense has some time to gather themselves. But when you're getting hit after play, after play, after play, offense can get in a rhythm. So I'm sure we'll probably see a little bit more of that.
Now, one thing is for sure. Rutgers goes to Ohio State this weekend, and then the following week, they return home for the blackout on Friday night. That's October the 7th at SHI Stadium. Very special Friday night game when they are taking on Nebraska. The energy level in the stadium the other night needs to be that exact same way when they return home. And I know we normally don't look forward quite so much, but when you've got that another night game in a special atmosphere, I don't think you can deliver the message too soon. Like, that crowd was really, really important. And if you're right there in the second half, they're going to be a huge factor in it.
As the kids would say, Chris, that crowd was lit on Saturday. You saw the towels waving in the air. Everyone was having a good time. It was like a party in the stadium. And like you said, you need that for the blackout game. Those are special moments on national TV on a Friday night. Yes, you don't want to look past Ohio State, but when you get the return home, you need everyone there loud and just like it was this past Saturday because the fans create a special atmosphere. And honestly, as a former player, there's nothing better than running out the tunnel and you see everyone cheering, yelling, getting ready for that special moment.
Eric, one last thing I want to ask you about this week with Ohio State. That is an unbelievable atmosphere, as we know. And 70% of this Rutgers team is sophomore eligibility or younger. Getting to go out there and play in that atmosphere and the experience that you take away from that, how valuable is that?
Oh, it's huge. It is. It reminds me of an atmosphere that I got to go in my freshman year. I got bumped out to play defensive end, and we had to go on the road versus West Virginia. And there was Pat White and Noel Devine in the game. And I remember that just pulling up to the game in the buses and the West Virginia fans throwing eggs at the bus. And you're like, whoa, like this is the real deal. That's what these players are about to walk into. And I got out there. And I remember my job was to tackle the dive on one of the zone reads. I got starstruck and I tackled Pat White, the quarterback, instead of the dive. And I got ripped out of the game and yelled at. But it's those moments that you think like, wow, this is real college football. This is what it's all about. These are the games that I want to play in. And these young guys are going to get to experience that special moment at Ohio State. And go out there, and it's nothing better than quieting a crowd on the road. We saw it in 2009 UConn. I know you remember that game, Tim Brown with the walk-off touchdown, Chris. And you can hear a pin drop in the stadium. There's nothing better than those moments.
No question. And a couple of years ago, Rutgers, in their last trip to Ohio State, certainly made things interesting. They ended up falling 49-27, but that was kind of that first night that you could really tell after the season opening win at Michigan State, things were going to be a little bit different. We continue to see that progression. Rutgers now 3-1 on the year, getting set to take on the undefeated Ohio State Buckeyes this Saturday in Columbus. That is a 3:30 p.m. kick. And, of course, you can join us on the Rutgers Sports Network, beginning our coverage at 2:30 with the pregame show and then 3:30 with the kick. It'll be myself, Julian Penix-Odrick, and Anthony Fusilli. Eric and Mark Malusis will man the postgame and halftime show. Want you to be with us then, and again, a week from Friday for the blackout when Rutgers returns home for Nebraska. Need that energy at the same level it was the other night. For Eric LeGrand, I'm Chris Carlin. We appreciate you joining us on this week's edition of Chop Weekly. Enjoy your week leading up to Rutgers and Ohio State this Saturday. And keep chopping. Best part of game day for me is getting the chance to walk through that parking lot with everybody who's out there just enjoying the experience.
All of a sudden you hear the band warming up and you get chilled. You smell the barbecue starting.
My favorite would have to be the Scarlet Walk. Probably at kickoff is the coolest moment because everyone's up, everyone's crazy.
All of the cannons go off and the crowd gets super hyped.
The RU chants.
Crowd, watching the crowd happen. When they score a touchdown, but a big stop on third down always gets the crowd rowdy.
Being in the stands with everyone, being right next to the student section, you can hear them cheering.
When I say, and that is a Rutgers, and the whole place goes, first down.
The excitement and the energy on the field.
Just being a part of the atmosphere.
Something about when the horse runs out on the field and the crowd's fired up and the cannon goes off and the music's playing. I don't know, it's goosebumps every time for me here.
It's a blackout in the past that has worked well for Rutgers. How much of an impact can it have again tonight?
Well, the blackout will be loud tonight. One of the best primetime venues in all of the Big Ten.
What a scene, what a night, what an atmosphere.